Welcome to the Voices of OUTCAN podcast. Join Military Family Services US as we explore the experiences our Canadian Armed Forces families have while on OUTCAN. Leaving your home to live in another country can be an exciting adventure, but it is also a time filled with unexpected challenges. Get a glimpse into the CAF OUTCAN world with these unique stories of resiliency and courage. Share in their struggles and cheer for their triumphs. Here are the voices of our OUTCAN families. Welcome to another episode of the Voices of OUTCAN podcast, where we share the stories of our Canadian Armed Forces families who have been on an Out of Canada or OUTCAN posting. I am your host for today's episode, Joanna Church. Today we are going to meet Lyane, who is the youngest guest we have had on our program so far. She is 25, living in the U.S. with her husband and 1.5-year-old son, Ryden. When she met her now husband, she was only 18 and trying to figure out what the right fit was for her career-wise, which, as many of our listeners have also experienced, was impacted when she fell in love with her guy, because she understood that if they were going to be together, she would need a career that could travel with her. But as our listeners also may know, making plans in this military life rarely work out how we think and hope they will. But what you are going to learn today is how this young military spouse took every challenge to her plans and turned them around to keep herself moving towards her goals and finding ways to keep pivoting her life to work for her, even while on an OUTCAN. Lyane, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Joanna. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. All right, let's go back in time to 2014. When you moved to Ottawa to begin schooling, you were 18 years old. Where were you moving there from? Where's your hometown?
So I guess I've always considered Quebec and Ontario my hometown. I don't really have a specific location. I was born in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, then we moved to Laval, and then we moved to a little town in just east of Ontario called Hawkesbury. And so the Hawkesbury-Vankleek Hill area is where I consider my hometown, and Ottawa seemed just far enough, but not too far from family and friends.
So is that what made you decide to head to Ottawa for schooling?
Yeah, it was one of the big reasons. Also, like, there was lots of schools that were available, and it was where a lot of my friends were also going for post high school studies.
So had you already met your husband to be at that time, or did that come after your move?
It came 2 months after my move.
So let's talk about one of your first big life pivots in this military life that would have probably happened then very shortly after that move, because you met your soon-to-be husband and you had to pivot because you had a dream of becoming a doctor, but you decided that a pharmacy tech program was the way to go for you to actually get started in a medical career. Why was that?
So when I had thought out my very rough plan at the time, it was I wanted to go to college to be able to make enough money to put me through more school and not have to work part-time and just rack the bills for university and medical school and so on and so forth. And so by meeting my now husband, it just made it easier to choose a program that I would be able to do fairly quickly, because it was a condensed 1.5-year program, and it was a really decent salary to start off with and give me experience in the health field and see if being a doctor is still really what I wanted to do, or if I wanted to continue in pharmacy or do pharmacy school and become a pharmacist. And so the college choice of the pharmacy technician program seemed adequate, because it was also one of the only ones that was open to start in January, which is like an off. Usually the school starts are September, but it started in January. So it kind of just fell into place.
And how much of the fact that you knew that if you wanted to have a long-term relationship with your guy, how much did that play into your choice of pharmacy tech, knowing that, to be with somebody who's in the military, you could be moving every couple of years?
Yeah, and so I chose pharmacy technicians because it was a relatively new profession. So it started in 2010 where people actually got accredited. And I was like, oh, well, this is great. Like wherever we move in Canada, I'll be able to bring my license with me and work in pharmacy.
It
So
just seemed like a great fit.
yeah.
Medical, it could travel with you, and you could do it in a quick 1.5 year program. So it just checked all those boxes for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just curious. So you mentioned the cost of becoming a doctor. Would you happen to know what is the average cost for all of the schooling it takes to become a doctor? This is totally off question, but I just am really curious.
Well, from when I was doing the searches, most schools range at about 20,000 a year.
Okay.
And so 4 medical years, and then yours the residency, and then whatever you choose to do after that. So it adds up.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, some Canadians may be surprised to hear that being common law married in Canada and the rights and benefits that you receive in Canada don't carry over to many OUTCAN postings. For the United States, you are able to come with your partner if you're common law, but without a recognized legal marriage certificate, you won't receive a US military dependent ID card. This can impact your ability to get health care, services, and so many other things. And it affects your ability to get necessary school and work documentation. And that's impacted as well if you are just common law and come to the US. So many, if not most, common law military couples who are told they are screening for a US OUTCAN posting have to make the decision of whether or not to enter into that more traditional legal marriage so that they can proceed unhindered with the posting. So, Lyane, for you, you said that this led you to a point where you actually had to decide whether you were going to take that big legal plunge of getting married or break up, which is another major pivoting decision that this military life forced you into. Most people don't like being forced into marriage, right? But in this case, military life was saying to you, well, you've got to choose. If you want to advance and go to this location, you've got to get married. Can you tell us a little bit about the emotions and conversations that you and your spouse had about this decision? And did you feel like that was a pressure that you weren't anticipating when you and he got together?
It was definitely something I wasn't expecting. And this actually happened on Valentine's Day. My husband's boss at the time's like, so you guys are either breaking up or getting married. What's the decision?
Yay. No pressure.
Yeah. But things had been going really well since we had been in common law for a year. We were living together. We knew that we worked well together. And it was just basically fast tracking our plans of maybe eventually getting married in the future. So definitely there were a lot of emotions, like considering both sides, the pros and cons of, okay, well, if we get married, it means this and this and this. Am I taking the name? Am I doing this? And so it was definitely a roller coaster, but we knew that we were good together and there wasn't really a doubt that we would break up. And so we just really, the military like pushed us in the butt to get married early.
And so what a lot of people don't realize is that even to proceed then with the screening process that families go through to get approved to go out you had to really quickly get married so that that could be a part of the screening process, even not even a guarantee you're going, just to get you screened properly. So you got married by what, a base chaplain really quickly?
Yes,
Was
in
anybody there with
Ottawa.
you? Or was it just
Yes,
you?
our parents, well, my parents were there, my siblings, and his mom and his uncle and cousins were there because we needed the witnesses to sign. Yeah, we actually had the wedding date before we had any of the rings. So,
Because you're like, we're getting this done.
yeah.
And then a little bit after that, you decided to go ahead and have like a second informal wedding and a party that family and friends came to, right? So like you did like a second, little bit bigger shindig.
Yeah, so that summer by we, it was me and my mom wanted to really have a party because I knew that family would want to celebrate it and friends wanted to celebrate it. So we planned to just have a really big outdoor party in the summer so that everyone can kind of come and celebrate. And we did, and it was great. For 3 months of planning a wedding, it was pretty awesome. So
So it was
really happy
beautiful.
about
It ended
that.
up being
Yeah.
beautiful, even
Yeah.
though it was rushed.
Yes, exactly.
So there is some irony to this whole decision of yours to go forward with a wedding that you weren't anticipating. And that irony is your OUTCAN posting was actually canceled 2 days after this second party, this informal wedding and party that you had for your family and friends. When that happened and your posting was canceled after all of that work and turmoil to get ready for it, was there any regret for either of you when that happened? Or did you still feel that you both had made the right decision for your relationship when you got married?
We both felt actually relieved because we knew that, well, now it's done and now we'll be ready if ever something else comes. There weren't any regrets. Like, we actually celebrated our honeymoon later that year in Hawaii, which was awesome. And then we knew that if ever the posting was going to come back up the next year, it was going to be a lot easier to muddle through than it was that previous year.
And it really did work out that way because
Yes.
the next year in 2018, when the OutCan posting came back up again, you were all ready to go. And you got the posting this time and you headed out to the United States, where we will be talking about your next major life pivot surrounding work, because that move did change some things for you when it came to work. But first, tell us about your first few months in the United States. Did you meet other Canadians? Did you go exploring? Because you did have a little bit of time before COVID hit us. How was it settling in? And what's been your favorite parts of your OutCam posting?
Give me a second.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
The first few months were basically getting a lay of the land. So learning all of what's local, knowing where the nearest grocery store is, or where the nearest mall is, or the nearest train station to go to the big cities. And just learning, we live on a nature preserve, so our backyard is just filled with trails. So it's learning all of what's available to us in proximity. When we moved down here, we had a really close-knit community, lots of family supports, and we were able to meet everyone within the first few months, which was excellent. It was nice to learn and meet other families that were also in the same situation as us and see what they're doing with their time. And back then, pre-COVID, there was definitely lots of like barbecues and suppers and lots of events that we loved going to.
And when you're talking about this, you're talking about other Canadian Armed Forces families who are in your
The area.
vicinity.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
nice that you could connect that way.
Yeah, it was excellent. And just where we're located too, we find that it's very different than Canada because everything is just so condensed here. So there's just so much that's close to you. Whereas like when you're in Ottawa, it's 2 hours to the next big city, which would be like Montreal, or 5.5 to 6 hours to go to Toronto. But here within an hour range, like there's just so much, like there's so much to see. Like if you're close to the ocean, it's like an hour drive to the ocean, which is ridiculous. And yeah, and then just all the different types of food too. Sure, it's very similar to Ottawa and just Canadian, but there's just a lot more diversity in close proximity to you. So many choices.
Do you have a favorite place that you liked to go, or a place that you guys found that like this was like your cool spot that you just found yourself going back to over and over again?
Actually, no. We're very boring people. The only place we do go back, I guess, would be like Domino's Pizza. But in terms of more fine dining, I'm actually the one that goes out to eat, not him. So I like to try out as many different places as possible while we're here. But there is a location that's closer to here that does a fine dining, and I have been pivoting back to that area. It's called Blackwall Barn and Lodge, and it's amazing. But other than that, I try to go to a different place every time just to experience everything.
I like that your culinary tastes range from fine dining to Domino's Pizza.
Don't we all?
I feel you. I definitely think that there's a lot more pizza options in the United States than in Canada. I found that as well. So,
In the area that we're in, a lot of them are pretty disappointing. So Domino's is the only one that was like subpar compared to the other pizza locations. And we've tried about 10 of them. So we did try.
so you're getting all settled in, but then you're discovering that this pharmacy tech career that you had so thoughtfully picked because of its ability to travel with you across the provinces for military moves is not so travel friendly when going out of the country. Tell us about that. What was going on with your pharmacy tech career when you got to the United States?
So before I got all of my documentations in, I had started my university program, which was with Queen's University online in May. And I had planned on doing that part-time while finding a job so that I can still work and do my school. And then while job hunting, the salaries, the hours, the locations of the places I would have been interested in working at were just nothing seemed to fall or align as I would have hoped. And so I did get my pharmacy license for the US, but it just nothing aligned. A third of the salary or like 50-hour weeks, but I really wanted to do my school. So that's when I decided to really focus on my school and find volunteering opportunities.
Yeah, that was actually going to be our next pivoting moment. So you realize that the work isn't going to be what you thought it was going to be. And you decided then to pivot and use your time OUTCAN to work full time on your undergraduate degree and really bust through that whole thing while you're on OUTCAN. Why did this feel like the next right step for you to just really focus on getting that degree while OUTCAN? And tell us about the field you chose and why you chose it.
So the field I chose is health sciences because I always knew that I wanted to be a health professional. I just never really aligned for what my end goal was. I just knew I liked being a pharmacy technician, but I didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And I knew that I would love to be a doctor, but that might not be a very linear road with a spouse that's in the military. So being in the health sciences, I figured that maybe some of the courses I would take would help me choose or pinpoint a specific position I would like to do or a specific thing I'd like to study in.
And has
And
it?
sort of. I've definitely learned that I definitely want to be either a doctor or a pharmacist, whatever door is open to me for when I move back to Ottawa. I'm still trying to figure that out. And now that my degree is done, I have started post-grad studies. And so I'm still waiting for that. We'll see what that big picture is. But while starting the school, I also was missing not working and missing not having that patient interface that I had at the hospital and pharmacies that I worked at. And that is why I decided to find a volunteering opportunity that would allow me to have that face-to-face with patients and, talk, because I'm a very outgoing person and I love to chat. And so that's how I ran across the hospice that was near where I lived. And I looked into them, and within a week, I was trained. I did all of my online training and was able to get the in-person training to go out and start seeing my back then weekly patients. So
Can you actually just take a second and explain to us, and for people who aren't familiar with what hospice is and what volunteers do for hospice, can you actually just talk about what a hospice volunteer does for patients?
So there's actually different types of hospice volunteers, but the type that I chose was the patient care volunteer. And so as my position, I was there to either coordinate the communications between the patient or the family members and with what programs were available to them.
And just for
And
clarity, so that when we're talking about patients in hospice, we're talking about patients who are getting end of life care. Is that correct?
exactly. So it's different than palliative because palliative generally will still continue their therapies for their illnesses, whereas hospice, it's more therapies to manage their pain. So they've stopped the therapy for their conditions or illnesses. And they'll have usually a 6 months prognosis to be admitted into hospice.
And so you were volunteering to help coordinate with the families of these patients?
Yes, my position was really to just go and talk and be a friendly ear to the patients and family members, just to be a friendly face, have someone to talk to that wasn't there to take their blood, take their pressure, make sure everything is okay. I still did have a set of questions I had to go through, but I was also just there to chat and to see how they're doing and to be more personal, while also being able to let them know what we can offer them if ever they decided that they wanted other services.
How long has it been that you've been doing it?
Since I moved down, so
So
3 years. Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
So has there been an experience or a moment in that 3 years that you've been doing hospice care that really has touched your life, that stands out as a moment that you felt like all of this volunteering was worth it for you on a personal level?
My first patient, I had her and her family for almost a year and a half. And it was a weekly visit that I would do. And so when she finally passed, that was like a huge shock to me because it was like part of my routine. Like, okay, well, it's Wednesday, it's 2 o'clock. I'm going over to my patient's house. I was excited to go see them. And 2 weeks after I had given birth, and at that time, my husband was home. So he was at home with the baby so that I can go visit my patient, just because I wanted to just wait another week. But then that next week is when she passed. And so I was so saddened that I wasn't able to bring my baby. And then that's when I realized how, like, life goes so quick. And I've learned so much from this family. Like, these stories I got every week were amazing. It was just great talking to them. I got to meet almost all of their 6 kids. And it was something that was it was just amazing. I didn't feel like I was doing and going over to their house as a chore. I liked going over and talking to them and just learning something new. And I forgot where I was going this, but it's just been a great experience. It always made me feel good going over there, and I knew that I was also able to make them happy as well by having someone there to talk to.
I think for especially this last year and a half with COVID, a lot of families, my own included, have had to have other people care for our aging or ill loved ones because we can't be there with them. And so, how impactful that you were able to be there as part of this family's end of time, and really amazing. And I can even see and hear the emotion that you still have about that time with your patients. So obviously that was very impactful and incredible for you.
Yeah, they made the most recommendations for restaurants and things to do while being down here. And so it was really nice just having them every week. And yeah, like I said, like, it didn't feel like a job, even though I had the patient reports to fill. Like, it was an amazing experience. And of course, that experience shifted when COVID happened, and it was rather than in person, it was phone calls, but you would still be able to get that same experience. And you knew whenever someone wanted to talk more, like, I was there to talk more. It changed, but I definitely love everything that I've learned from the hospice. And I will definitely miss that experience going back to Canada.
Don't forget to check out calfconnection.ca to find information and resources for members and their families specific to your location. Whether that's across Canada or at any OUTCAN post, Military Family Services is here for you, regardless of your posted location.
A lot of spouses and dependents really underestimate the power of volunteering, either in place of working during an OUTCAN or supplementing a job during an OUTCAN, and what volunteering can actually add to your resume. But you have used your volunteering experience in the US to actually add numerous certifications to your learning profile, and all of them were paid through the Hospice Volunteer Organization. Can you tell us a little bit about these certificates that you received and how they have changed your outlook on patient care? Because they're unique certifications.
Yeah, so all of these certifications are considered healing arts and holistic. And so the first one is the Certified End of Life Specialist, which is the training that I had to do to be a hospice volunteer. And so it'll just explain to you different frames of how to think and how to approach the end of life. So that really opened up different perspectives that I hadn't considered before, which really made me just see things from different ways. Then there was a comfort touch certification, which is like a very gentle massage. And it's something that's offered to patients if they want it. It's just the hands and the arms and, the head, neck, whatever they can want or you can offer to them. And it's just like a really soothing and calming comfort touch. And the aroma touch is the third certification, and that is very similar, but it was mainly based on the hands, and basically you're using some essential oils to do the same and similar techniques as the comfort touch. And then the other two certifications were Reiki Level 1 and Reiki Level 2, which is a type of energy healing. And so all of these certifications, they've just allowed me to better understand the importance of the holistic and healing arts therapy for patients, something that until then I hadn't realized how beneficial it would be when it's combined with typical Western medicine. And so it really supports the whole of the patient's physical and mental health. And if it weren't for hospice, I would probably be much more blind to all the benefits of these therapies and how they help patients have the best of the last days of their lives.
You strike me as a very scientific minded person. You are interested in healthcare, and pharmacy is very scientific, very numbers driven in a lot of ways, chemically driven. So, was that surprising to you that you found yourself actually embracing this more holistic approach to healthcare?
I thought it was extremely interesting and how it was really seeing the patient as a whole and not just seeing as the patient as needing the therapy to thrive, because there's more aspects to it than just the therapy. And so I found that this experience just really opened up to my eyes and see how different people will view their health as a different way. Like I might view their health as making sure they take their medications, but they might view their health as making sure that they have a really nice meal with their family once a week because that makes them feel whole. And so this experience just really taught me how all of these different people believe that they are happy and what makes them happy. And if healing arts and holistic healing is what made them happy, then I was more than happy to provide that for them.
That's really great because, I mean, so you have this degree in health science, and a lot of people would think that's the most important thing is get that degree. And yet you're showing and demonstrating that to really become that well-rounded health practitioner, whatever that is at the end of the day, whatever you choose to become as a health practitioner, that you see it as more than that, that you can benefit from all these different types of learning. And you got that from volunteering, which is what's incredible to me, because like I said, we get so many people who don't realize that while volunteering is awesome because you're giving back and you're giving to your community and to the world, you can actually gain real world experience and competencies by volunteering. And now you've got look at that, 5 certificates that you can add to your learning profile and your resume and your portfolio as you move forward as a healthcare practitioner, which is very interesting because what we're going to move into now is, I mean, all of that's been great. And you want to be this well-rounded health practitioner, but you have found that there are times that no matter how much you want to pivot around the challenges that get thrown your way, you haven't been able to in a couple instances back here in the United States because of circumstances and people that are just out of your control. And this was really the case when you, as a young woman, far from home on her first out-of-country posting, right before the start of a worldwide pandemic, you got pregnant and you gave birth to your first child, your son. And you did this in a healthcare system that was very different from what you were used to, not what you were expecting. So the period around your delivery and then this past year and a half after his birth really had you pivoting in lots of different ways, but none of them the way you wanted to go. So while many of our OUTCAN families have had awesome experiences with their healthcare at military medical installations in the US and in their communities, your birthing experience was not what you had hoped or planned for and really left you feeling frustrated and let down. But you also said that this experience has made you want to be better than this, so that no one who is ever in your care has to go through what you did. Can you tell us a little bit about this time in your life?
Sure. A lot of this time has been blocked out by my brain for pure frustration, but
Little trauma might be thrown in there.
Yeah. I guess the real word to describe it was just disappointed. I had expectations of the type of care that the hospital I used to work at had, and like a lot of my colleagues gave birth there, a lot of my friends gave birth there, and I knew that like they've all had a fairly straightforward and rather good experience. And the challenges that I had were just not ones that I thought I would. So it's not something I could really plan for, as the care that I got isn't something that's in my control. From the minute that I got into the door, I was just welcomed with attitude, and I did not feel welcome. It was not a good start to me having this, what is supposed to be a wonderful experience.
And you were 23 at the time, right?
Yes, I was 23. And so I had been having contractions every 2 minutes for 45 seconds for the past 2 hours. This hospital that we were told we had to go to was an hour drive away. And so I was having these contractions every 2 minutes in a very bumpy road. And I get there, and then the first thing that they greet me with is just attitude and like, oh, well, you're not even at 5 centimeters. You should go home. And I was just like, okay, wow. this is not what I was expecting. And from there, it was just constantly having to advocate for myself, but not knowing what to advocate for, as nothing was laid out as to what was being offered. And so, to be more clear, they told me that they weren't going to help me progress because there was also other mothers progressing. And so it was,
so like they only had so much space or room for women giving birth, or?
Yeah. And so because someone else was also in labor, they were just like, well, whoever goes first goes first. And I was like, okay, so I'll just
Did you
sit
feel
here.
like you were on like a conveyor belt of women giving birth?
Essentially. It wasn't a good feeling knowing that my team wasn't doing everything for me, and I just was at the mercy of this other lady hopefully going soon so that I can go next. And so it was just very, at that point, I just felt like I had no voice. No one was coming on and checking up on me. Luckily, my mom was with me, and having gone through 5 birth experiences, she was a bit more knowledgeable about the things I should be asking or what should be happening. And just that whole, luckily, it was only 17 hours of labor. I know other people have it a lot longer. And I'm thankful that I have a healthy, cute little baby boy, but it definitely wasn't all the cream and peaches that you're told about when being pregnant.
And so one of the issues with using a military installation facility is, especially in a location that is larger and it's a larger facility, you didn't have like the doctor you had seen throughout your pregnancy. You weren't counting on that doctor being there to deliver for you, right? Like it's not like where you go through a whole process when you're in a smaller community, you have your doctor, you go through it with your doctor, and then when you're ready to give birth, the doctor comes to the hospital and it's the same person who has been working with you for your entire pregnancy. That wasn't the case here either, was it?
No, at every appointment, I had a different practitioner, whether it be a midwife or a doctor. So throughout all of my checkups, I also thought that would be the best way, because that would give me the chance to actually probably meet one of the people that would be there when I did come into labor by rotating who was on staff. And
Did that happen?
I got no one. I got none of the people that I had seen.
So a stranger delivered your baby.
Yes. And I'm all for teaching. And so everything was finished up by medical students, which I was fine with. That part was fine. It was more that no one had told me how meals work. And so I didn't actually eat until almost 14 hours after I had given birth. So, and until the nurse came in and was like, oh, well, you're supposed to order from this number. I'm like, well, that would have been nice to know. And so it was just all these little TD things that just kept piling up and to the point that I'm like, okay, I just need to get out of here. Like, I just need to get out of here. I feel like no one is putting me in their best interest. And I just felt like I was just another number on their charts. and nothing was personal. Like it was just not what I was expecting. And so that quality of care of just having no, I don't even know how to expect, like it was just so I've just pushed it aside so much that I don't even know how to explain how I was feeling, aside really just being disappointed and frustrated in the care that I got. And it was just, I was happy to be out of the hospital. Like I was just happy.
But like you said, that experience touched you so much that it's really made you determine, like, you're going to make sure that if you are ever in that position to be the caregiver for someone going through those experiences, you're going to make sure that they don't feel the way that you felt, right?
Right, because that's like I wish that upon no one, to feel like they aren't being taken care of in a place that they should definitely be taken care of. And obviously, like as a new mom, there's so many things that you're going to be going through at the beginning, and just you're expecting to have a good care team there that's like helping you and providing you with resources and just information on how to be successful within those first few weeks. And like luckily, like I said, my mom was there, but there's so much that we can do if we just keep getting denied by the nursing station to have a soother for my baby, or can I just take a nap with my baby even though my mom and my husband are there watching me. So getting 3 hours of sleep in 4 days is not a pleasant experience, and definitely made my blood pressure go high.
So besides your mom and your husband, who was there as well, were there any other people or supports or community members that you were able to reach out to during and directly after this time that really helped you make it through what was obviously very traumatic for you?
Yeah, luckily I actually had, because this was just before Christmas, so I actually had some family come down for like Christmas. And so that was nice, to just have those extra hands to just help me get more than 2 hours of sleep in a row for a few days. And once they were gone, there was a lot of members of the community that just came over and helped, because I was still in school. And so a lot of them would come and watch Ryden while I was doing an hour or two of school here and there, because I just felt like I needed to feel like myself and continue working. Like I couldn't just stop everything.
So you jumped right back into schooling right after giving birth.
Yes, yeah.
Look at you, superwoman.
Yeah, I didn't do it full time, of course. Like I was typically doing 3 courses per semester, but obviously once I had just given birth, I only did 2 that semester. So it was a lot easier to handle. But yeah, no, the community was great. And we actually had a few little American babies from Canadian families that were born within 2 months. And so we made sure to get together often, and so that they can see each other. And so that was really awesome.
So what she means by American babies is when you are a Canadian military family, or any family really, who gives birth to a child in the United States, that child is automatically a United States citizen. And so they, from birth, have dual citizenship. For those of you listening who may find yourself in a pregnancy situation while on OUTCAN, that's a great thing to know. Because you will have to actually apply for certification of your baby's Canadian citizenship because they weren't born in Canada, but they do have it from birth because you're Canadian. One interesting point to note for any male child born in the United States is they have to register for the draft when they turn 18. So that's another thing to be aware of. If they want to keep dual citizenship, they will have to register for the draft when they turn 18. So one of those little weird side points of having an OUTCAN posting and giving birth.
Yeah, it's same with the IRS and the taxes.
Yeah, yeah, they have to pay
a lot of fun. Yeah,
good times.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the IRS, the CRA, they come and get you. No, like they will find you. So I like to ask our guests if they have any personal mantras that they live by that they would like to share with our listeners. And you had said that you really live by the phrase, knowledge is power. Tell us what that means to you.
So I really believe that continuing to learn something every day shapes me to be a better person, whether this be like a new technique on how to calm my racing thoughts because I have anxiety, or a new method on how to bake a cake, or even something like learning how to be more empathetic to people who have opposing views. And so continuously immersing myself in these new experiences and challenges and just learning new things will help me learn more about myself and what's out there. And the way I see it, the more tools I have in my belt, the better equipped I'll be to take care of my family, my friends, and future patients.
So you did not work a job while you were in the United States.
Not paid. No.
Not paid. Yep.
Yeah.
But you got your degree. You did volunteering work. So do you feel that you are actually going back to Canada with the knowledge that you gained more powerful than when you came?
Oh, for sure. I'm still the same person, but I'm also a very different version of myself where I've learned so much, and just the things I've learned just being in the US. I can't explain how grateful I am for this experience, even though there have been many bumps in the road. The amount of stuff that I have been able to learn and the certifications I've gotten, just because of the opportunities that there are down here that I may not have had in Canada. I'm definitely going to go back to Canada and just be a better pharmacy technician than I was 3 years ago.
So, Lyane, if you were going to encourage our military families today with your mantra, how would you apply it to them in their military journey, especially to those younger spouses like you are, and especially on an OUTCAN? What would you say to them using your mantra?
As a military family, we have unique challenges that other citizens or people might not have. And the best way to navigate these uncharted waters is by being as informed as possible about where you are going, or, what trade your husband is and what his career might look like and what that means for you. And by knowing these things, it might help you make more decisions on what you want to do with yourself. Do you want to align yourself to continuously study, or do you want to align yourself to be able to work from home, or do you want to align yourself to be the mom and have a bunch of beautiful children that will just travel wherever with you? And so once you sort of have an idea of who you are, then it'll be easier to just go down a path. And obviously it won't be very straight. There will be curves and bumps, but once you sort of have an idea of where you see yourself, you just take every opportunity that comes at you and you just go with it. And it might not even be where you might not even end up where you thought you were or would be in 5 years or 10 years. Like, I didn't think I would be moving back to Canada after being in the US for 3 years with a baby and a degree. and so you just have to be open to opportunities and learn as much as you can in every step of the way.
Yeah, that's so true. Lyane, thank you so much for sharing your very knowledgeable and powerful experiences with us. You are an amazing example of showing us how to pivot around the challenges and complications that come with living this military life. And we are so thankful that you are willing to share your unique voice of OUTCAN.
Thank you so much, Joanna. It was great to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Voices of OUTCAN podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to hear when new episodes are released, and share with other military families and their supporters. Check out our Voices of OUTCAN podcast information and all of the other resources and supports offered by MFSUS on our CAF Connection web pages at cafconnection.ca/United States. To all of our Canadian military members and your families, we thank you for your service.